Okay, so in honor of Shavuot, this beautiful venue that we have here, Shavuot is considered it is in the third month, Nisan, Iyar, Sivan, right? And the number 3 is very prominent with the holiday of Shavuot. It's the third month. It says it's been given to, how do we see 3?
What?
Shalosh. Where do we see 3?
החודש השלישי,
Third
ביום
month?
השלישי,
Right.
3, אנחנו, רגע, לא, התורה, 3 תורות נשמענו, התורה זה מחולק לתורה, נביאים, כתובים.
Right, the Torah is divided, the written Torah.
ישראל 3,
Right,
כהנים, לוויים וישראל.
good.
Wow.
Yeah, ומשה,
Mm-hmm.
who was taking out from the water on
Yom
actually on the
Shlishi?
day of Shavuot, I think.
Well, no, Moshe was he's the siblings. So
right,
there's
first that.
there's
First, he's
Mo-
the third born for his mom.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's the third born. יש לנו את אהרון
אהרון
ומרים
מרים.
ומשה.
Aaron,
So
Miriam,
he's
and
the
Moshe,
third
right.
one. And then there's another thing.
And it was given in the year 2448 from the creation,
This I
right?
it's,
Which-
it's not in the Eliyahu Kitov book.
Which is the third millennium, right? It's in the third millennium. So we have a lot of the number 3s with the Torah, associated with the Torah. So many of these triplets in the Torah.
Right.
And the question is, why all these triplets? You would think that the Torah would be symbolic with the number 1, oneness, the oneness of God. Why number 3? And when you think of the number 3, what does it signify? When we have the number 1, 1 means there's me. There's me and there's no one else. There's a domineering force of me. And you would think, okay, that's a not conflict. But the truth is, it's not non-conflict. It's all about me and my opinions or my way of doing things, and it doesn't take into account anybody else. So everything it's like my way or the highway, right? It's as though the Torah was given in order to bring peace to the world. That's why the Torah was given, to bring peace to the world. So you would think number 1 is peace, but no, number 1 isn't peace. It's just me domineering and subduing other opinions. Well, then there's the number 2. What's the number 2? Number 2 means there's me and there's you, but there's a point of conflict, because if there's me and there's you, there's what I'm saying, what I'm pulling, the direction that I'm pulling in, and the direction that you're pulling in. And there's this conflict of who is going to win in this conflict. And then there's number 3. And what is number 3? Number 3 is saying there's me and you, and then there's this overarching principle that encompasses us both. So number 3 means that there's this unity because we're finding a way to fit in the 1 and the 2. 3 is encompassing the 1 and the 2, and is bringing in this new awareness that accompanies everyone. For example, when you have a relationship, you have a marriage, right? There's my view, there's my husband's view,
And the truth.
And ours.
and then there's ours. The number 3 would be that we are building together something. We're enveloped in something higher than just what I want to do or what you want to do. We're here for a purpose. The marriage, the institution of marriage, or this institution of love, or the home that we're building. This is the number 3, and that encompasses me and you. So there are times when it's going to be more my way and times when it's going to be your way, but it's not about me or you, because all of these are fitting into this general bigger picture of what's best for the marriage, what's best to build a home, what's best to build this home. When we look at a person, you could see the same thing. There's a person who we have a mind and we have a heart. And you sometimes have mind people. They just do everything according to logic, the way that they're thinking, the way that makes sense to them. And then you have these heart people who are doing everything that according to what their emotions say. And the mind and the heart could work in conflict. But the number 3 way would be, we're going to do things sometimes with the mind, sometimes with the heart, but in a way that makes sense for the benefit of what we're trying to achieve in this world. And so it says It's interesting because it says that the Torah was given to make peace to the world, to give us a purpose, to give us a sense of purpose. And that purpose is what is the number 3. So each of us individuals fit into this big grand picture. It's not about my way or your way. It's about where each of us can fit in, where we can find our role, where we can use our talents and our unique personalities and our unique selves in this grand, bigger picture of creating a home for God in this world. And when we talk about the Torah, it says, though interesting, that we know the Torah was given on Sinai, on Har Sinai. And the word Sinai also can mean it's a different letter, the sin and the samach, but it comes from sin'ah, which means hatred.
Oy.
And we were just talking a few minutes ago about the hatred, because ever since the Torah was given, there is this sin'ah, there is this hatred in the world against the Jewish people. And why is there this hatred against the world, in the world against the Jewish people, if the whole purpose of the Torah was to bring peace? But again, let's remember, what peace are we talking about? We're talking about a peace that isn't me or you or this fight, but we're talking about this overarching unity, this overarching way of living, this way of living that shows us a purpose, that gives us a sense of purpose, that gives us a sense of morality, that teaches us, that shows us how to bring God into our world, how to bring godliness, spirituality, morality into the world. The Torah does all that. So how is it that it's bringing out this sin'ah, this hatred? Because there are those who don't want that, who are fighting against that. Those who fight against the light that the Jewish people are bringing are the ones that are constantly fighting against the Jewish people, and why we have the anti-Semitism that we have against us, all around us. And like we said, it's an anti-Semitism whether we're rich or poor, whether we're religious or not religious. That anti-Semitism is there from those who are fighting against this overarching truth, those who cannot accept this overarching sense of purpose of why the Torah was given, which is to bring this peace to the world. Which means, what does peace mean? When you are at peace with yourself, when you feel that you are doing what you're supposed to be doing, when you are feeling like you're doing your purpose in the world, that you're doing what you were created for, you feel this sense of peace. It's not a sense of happiness, it's a sense of peace. It's a sense of accomplishment, that this is what I was created for. The Torah was created to give us that sense of peace, to show us how we can bring peace into this world, how everything in this world can be used for its purpose. And that's why, by the way, there's 3 names to this holiday of Shavuot. The first name of the holiday is Zman Matan Torasenu, the Zman Matan Torasenu, the time that we were given Toratenu, our Torah. It's the holiday of the Torah. This is the gift that we were given. And of course, the Torah is full of laws, do's and don'ts, what you should do, what you shouldn't do. These do's and don'ts help us as a world to become a more in line, more aligned with God's will, more aligned with morality, aligned with what we're supposed to be, our purpose is in this world. That's what Zman Matan Torasenu is about. The other name of this holiday is the one that we always call it, which is Shavuot. And what is Shavuot? Shavuot is weeks, because we've been counting 7 weeks from Pesach till Shavuot. And what are these weeks that we are counting? And you're so well counting in the Omer that you're counting. And what are these 7 different qualities that we say in the Omer? That each day we're working on ourselves, on a different character trait. There's 7 different qualities and 7 different soul traits that we're working on, and we're trying to improve ourselves, readying ourselves to preparing ourselves to get the Torah. So this is how we, on a personal level, on an individual level, how we refine ourselves, how we make ourselves into better people on a very individual level. So we have the Torah level, which is for the world, the laws that are there for the world. We have the Shavuot level, where we're talking about refining our individual selves. And then there's one last name of the holiday. Anyone know?
Aliyah Regel.
Well, it is Chag HaKatzir for the harvest, but it's
Chag HaBikurim.
Chag HaBikurim. Yes, Chag
What about
HaBikurim.
Chag Aliyah Regel? because
That's
it,
a
That's-
bikurim.
that's
That's
just-
a bikurim. because
that's just
it brings
shlosh regalim.
bikurim. ביקורי קציר חיטים, because it's a time that it's a-
אבל זה אחד משלושת הרגלים.
נכון.
That's
No.
it's
מה
one
זה
it's one of the
ביקורים?
three.
ביקורים
Yeah,
הביאו לבית המקדש
כן.
הביאו
Right.
ביקורים.
כן,
אז
זה אני
חג
יודעת.
הביקורים. למה ביקורים? ביקורי קציר חיטים, לא סתם ביקורים.
כן,
Because they cut the
first-
קציר of the
כן.
חיטה,
Right.
of
The first fruits.
כן.
of the wheat.
Right.
Exactly. This was the time that they were making the harvest, and the first harvest that we bring, we always bring the first and the best to God.
Yeah.
So this was the offering that we give of bikurim from the word bechor. It's the first. It's the first that we're devoting, the first of what in this beautiful new harvest we're giving out the first to God. We're showing God this is what's important to us. We might be spending all our time taking care of all the mundanity in our homes and our farms and all the things that we're taking care of, but what are we giving the best to you? Because our best is always to God. The best of our talent, the best of our resources, that goes to you. So Chag HaBikurim is where we're taking the harvest and giving that harvest to God. So this is how we're showing. So the first way we're saying Torah is for all mankind, so that we elevate all of ourselves. Second one is how we work individually. Chag HaShavuot, we work individually to get higher and higher to a higher level on a very individual, personal level. And the third is Bikurim, how even the inanimate, how all creation, the plants, the inanimate, everything is raised up to God. How Torah does that. It raises up not only people, but it raises up all of humanity and all things, all material things, even the plants, the food, the harvest is raised up to God. And the Torah teaches us exactly how we can do that, because the whole point of Torah is to make God felt here in this world. And when it comes to that, there is no me or you, the one or the two. It's this all-encompassing number three. I was just doing an interview today with a Rabbi Dr. Abrams, who you'll see in a few months from now, and he is a chemist who works in Boston University, and he's got a lot of big qualifications. I can't even remember all the things that he is, but he's a doctor of chemistry, and he looks like a totally religious Hasidic Jew. His beard is about this long, literally. And when he says when he went for his interview, people told him, you're going to go like that, because he wasn't always religious. But he became religious, and this is what he became. And people told him, you're going with your kippah and with your long beard. And he said, well, they're not like attachments. These are the real things. So he says, when we go, and he says, yeah, he went with all that pride. They invited him to come when they were interviewing him for his position. They invited him to come on a Friday, and he said, no, I can't get back on time. I'm a Sabbath observing Jew. And then they change it to Monday, and he says, and if you're going to be having some food, because their interviews are like full day affairs with food and all, I won't be able to eat from it. It's okay, I don't mind, but I'm just letting you know I won't be able. And he went with that feeling of, this is who I am, and this is who I'm proud of, and there's no contradiction. And he said he got the job because of that. He found out later, because they wanted someone with values that is strong about their values. And one of the questions I asked him was, how do you bring in these two worlds? How do you bring these two worlds together? On the one hand, he's this Hasidic Jew. On the other hand, he's teaching in Boston University, a completely secular place. He's the head of the chemistry department there, the head of science. How are you bringing these two together? And he says, I take issue with the whole question. There is no two worlds. It's not that there's a Jewish world, a religious world, and a secular world. Everything is together, and this is the idea of what we're saying. There's no one or two or three. The three is encompassing everything, brings it all together, and that's the idea of Torah. I'll just share one cute story that he told me. He says there was, and this is again the idea that there's no one or two, there's no conflict. Torah brings that peace, it brings that overarching purpose to everybody, and your purpose might be very different than your purpose individually. but collectively, we're all here for the same purpose. So you're doing it in a different way, but we're all the same. So we're all the same in that we're all achieving this purpose of bringing godliness into our world. However we're bringing it, however you're doing. And the means that you and you might be using might be diametrically opposed, but you're under the umbrella of this unity. And he shared a story that years ago he had a student who came to him and told him this. The student said, the student was keeping kosher and keeping Shabbat, but he came to university and he was going to go for university for quite a few years. He says, in university, I can't keep it all. I just can't. I'm going to leave it all, and maybe I'll take it back and again keep my observance when I finish, when I graduate. But once I'm in school, it's too much. And the student said to God, he made a pact with God. He said, God, tomorrow I'm going to the non-kosher restaurant for the first time, and I'm going to enjoy it. Unless you give me some sign by tomorrow morning at 12 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm going. And then he shows up at his first day of school, first day of class, and the first class that he has is this Dr. Abrams. He's sitting in his class and he sees this man with this long beard, this hat, this kippah, this tzitzit, and he's like, okay, God, very well played.
Good.
And the point is, though, that he was trying to make is that there's no dichotomy of Torah brings this peace to our world. Torah brings this peace because it gives us our purpose. It teaches us what we are meant to be doing in this world and how we're meant to be doing it. And the overarching purpose of each person might be, the individual purpose might be unique, but the overarching reason of why we're all here is the same, and there's a unity in that. So that's the idea of Shavuot. Now, I wanted to talk a little about Ruth, right? And the story that we read on Shavuot, the Megillat Ruth, which is a beautiful, beautiful story about the woman Ruth. And she was, of course, a convert who was descended from Moabites. And she became the great-grandmother of David HaMelech, which is the ancestor of Mashiach, right? Because we know Mashiach comes from David, from Beis David. So she was really the one who brings in Mashiach into our world as the great ancestress of it. And it's a beautiful story. Do we know what the story is?
Yeah.
Who wants to talk a little about the story? Who wants to give us a little summary?
את לא יודעת?
I didn't finish yet, so I'm not there.
Okay, so
Yeah,
go ahead. What does it start?
She married
She married
את הבן, the son of Ruth,
Bruce.
of Naomi.
Naomi, yes.
Naomi, and he died.
Right. Well, why? How did he marry her? Why did it happen that he married her?
I can't remember. I know she went after Naomi. Basher tilchi elech,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Your people are my people.
Yes.
Your nation is my nation. Where you go, I go. Yes, it was beautiful, beautiful words. So it all starts during the time period. Let's give a little historical context. This is the time period of the judges, the Shoftim. So the Jewish people, we have Moshe. We know about Moshe, right? He was leading the Jewish people into the land of Israel. But he can't take them into Israel. Instead, his successor, who is Yehoshua, Joshua, is the one that actually brings them into the land of Israel. After Yehoshua dies, there is no specific leader. There's a period that we call the judges, Shoftim, and this is in the book of Nevi'im. This is actually in the book of Shmuel. It's recorded. Shmuel Hanavi is the one that recorded this book of Ruth, this book of Ruth. During the time period of the judges, it was a very unstable time period for the Jewish people because there wasn't this central king. There were these different judges, and you were supposed to go to different judges, and there was a head judge, the head judiciary, who would make decisions and who was kind of a political leader. but there was a lot of corruption in there, in this position. It says, Ish hayashar beinav yaseh, who everyone did whatever they wanted to do, which was not a good situation. So some years you had years of stability, if there was a good shofet, and some years it was completely instability, and the people really went back to idolatry or immoral behaviors. So this happened in the period of the Shoftim, this whole story. And what happens because of all, Eretz Yisrael is a very holy land. And it says that Eretz Yisrael is such a holy land that it cannot take when we do wrong things, when we don't keep the Torah. And what happens when we don't keep the Torah? We see immediately the what happens to the Jewish people then. So at this time there was the Jewish people were not keeping the ways of God, and so there was a famine in the land. There was a famine for many, many years in the land. At the time when there was this famine, Naomi was a very wealthy woman. She and her husband Elimelech were very wealthy, right?
Wow.
You remember now?
Yes.
And
Thank you.
Elimelech decided that he did not want to be in the land of Israel when there's a famine, because people are going to come to him and are going to ask of him, and he did not want to give. He did not want to part with his wealth. So he decided, let's leave during the period of the famine.
They went to Moab.
They went to Moab. He didn't think it would be that long. He thought it would be a few months, but it ended up being much longer, and they ended up staying for years and years. They went to Moab. He said, let's go to Moab, to a place where we're not known. The family moved to Moab against Naomi's tremendous hesitation. She did not want to do this, but she followed along. And it was in Moab that, according to the Midrash, they moved to different places, first a small village, then a larger place, and then they went back to the smaller village. And it was there that they became comfortable and settled in. And they went there with their two sons. Their two sons' names were Machlon and Chilion, right?
Wow.
And as they are living there, the children decided that they want to make a life for themselves here. So Naomi's hope was always to return to the land of Israel. But the children were making a life for themselves, and they got noticed as important individuals, because they were important individuals in the land of Israel. And the king actually noticed them and wanted to take them as son-in-laws, Machlon and Chilion, for his children, Ruth and Orpah. And they married there.
The Shiksas?
So there's differences of opinion whether they actually converted them, or didn't convert them. Even if they converted them, it wasn't a proper conversion, because it wasn't like there was a beis din there. It wasn't like they were converting for the right reasons. So the conversion and remember, there's also a whole issue. We spoke several times about the whole idea of Moab not entering the people of Israel. So people didn't know at this time that law referred only to a Moavi male, not a female, because when the Jewish people left Egypt and they were traveling through the various lands for 40 years, right? They tried to buy food and produce and things that they needed. And the people of Moab refused to sell it to them, even though this would have been good for both of them, for the Moabim and for the Jewish people. But their hatred for the Jewish people, and I guess we could see that today, right?
Yeah.
The same stories repeat themselves. Their hatred for the Jewish people was so strong that they didn't want to even allow them. And so therefore, the Torah says, when you have people that are like that, who are cruel, and there's cruelty in their nature, even though it was beneficial for them and they still didn't give it, these people cannot enter the Jewish people. However, the Torah clarifies, and it was only clarified in the time of Ruth, that referred to the male, because in that time, who was it that would go out to the borders to sell the produce? It was the men. The women would stay at home. It wasn't proper for the women to go out. So it was the men who were responsible for not selling it, not the women, and therefore the Torah specifically says the Moavim cannot enter the congregation of Israel. But it didn't refer to the women, the Moaviyas, the female Moabites. So, but this, of course, was not known until it was clarified. There was a big differences of opinion. It was only clarified thanks to Ruth in her marriage. So anyways, Machlon and Chilion marry Rus and Orpah. Now, God was waiting. He was very patient. He was hoping that they would do teshuvah, go back to the Jewish land, go back to their homeland, go back to the Jewish people, but it was not meant to be. So first, Elimelech dies. Then, first they lose their wealth, all the wealth that they brought, hoping that maybe they'll wake up and see this is not a good place for them. They'll go back. But they didn't get the message. Elimelech stayed, the boys stayed, they wanted to stay. And Elimelech dies. And of course, Naomi is heartbroken, and she kind of feels this is all happening for the wrong because they left the land of Israel. And she tries to convince her sons to go back, but they refuse. They're not interested in going back. We have a life here. We have wives. Each have wives here. They want to stay there. And they marry their non-Jewish wives. Again, Naomi is so heartbroken. She's just doesn't know where to put herself. But what is she supposed to do? She's a woman on her own. And eventually, there is some kind of disease that goes around, and Machlon and Chilion both die as well.
It's very meaningful, the names.
Yes, why?
Machlon.
Right.
Chilion, the Machala.
Machala.
Yeah.
Yes, and Kilion.
I wanted to translate
Yes.
in English. Yeah, Machlon וכיליון.
Kilion, destruction. Yes, exactly.
Also the name of Orpah.
Orpah. Arif, right, neck.
Oref.
Yes, the hard neck, exactly.
Yeah, because she didn't go to...
Because she didn't come back, exactly. So,
So why Ruth?
לא יודעת.
You gotta find it now.
well, there is
Now
different
you think,
reasons.
I'll get it.
It says backwards.
Rashi.
Backwards, it's Tur, like a turtle dove, which
Ah.
is so peaceful. There's another explanation as well, which I read, but I don't remember. But yeah, there's different reasons for it.
Everything is a
Right.
name of a...
So at that point, Naomi realizes her children have died, her husband has died, her wealth is gone. She says, now it's time to go back to my people. This has all happened because, she was kind of forced to go, but I have to now return. And she decides to return to her people. And she tells her two daughter-in-laws, and this is the famous thing where Orpah agrees to stay, agrees to go back to her father's home, to be back to the palace life that she had. But Ruth says, wherever you go, I go. Your people are my people.
Yeah.
This is the destiny
Basher
that,
Nechter.
and where you go, I go, exactly. And this is the destiny that she joins with Naomi to join with her to be part of the Jewish people. This was where she actually really converted properly. This was she knew the conversion, but this was her taking it on, not because of marriage, not because of ulterior motives, but because she really wanted to be Jewish. She saw what Naomi was, and she saw the morality that Naomi had, and she said, this is the life that I want to lead. And she knew when she's going back to the land of Israel, she might not be accepted. Maybe she's a convert, she's a Moavi. A lot of people thought that you can't even have a Moabite. She knew this, and yet she still stood steadfast that this is what I want. Whether I'm accepted, not accepted, I'm coming back as someone completely destitute, but this is where I'm associating. This is, I know where my destiny is. This is who I am. I'm at peace with myself in this place. And so she goes back with Naomi. Now, this was right after the famine had stopped. This was the first harvest after the famine had stopped. And this is one of the reasons that we read it during the holiday of Shavuot, Chag HaKatzir, the festival of the harvest, and this was during the harvest season. Another reason why we read it during this time is because Ruth was the grandmother of David, and David's birthday and Yartzeit were both on Shavuot. 70 years later, he lived for 70 years. He was born on this day and he died on this day, and so we're remembering this through the book of Ruth.
She's also known for gleaning the fields, right? And like it?
Yes,
The corner of the fields.
the corner of the fields, right?
I was
Yes.
waiting.
Huh?
We don't read the book of Ruth at Chabad.
We don't read the book of Chabad.
No, you can choose what you want to do. What's the deal?
But it's a custom that many people do read it.
Except we don't do that custom.
We don't do a lot of like extra things. We just, it's hard enough to do the basics.
Chabad does a lot of extra things. That they decided not to do.
That they decided.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they are going back to their homeland, to the land of Israel,
We're
and you
getting
could
together.
you can you can imagine the reaction of the people when they're seeing Naomi, who had previously been this rich lady who was, servants and carriages, and now she's destitute, barefoot. Her skin was completely wrinkled. You can imagine how people looked at her, and people didn't know how to react to her. Should we have pity on her? Or should we, look what she did? She deserted the nation of Israel. Maybe she got what she deserved. Maybe we shouldn't have pity on her. There was this mixed reaction. And Ruth, who is she? Is she a proper convert? Is she not? Is she a Moabite? People didn't even know how to really relate to them, as you can imagine. Some people were not nice, and some people just didn't know. They didn't know what to make of it. So you can imagine that this was the talk of town for quite a little bit. And then people got busy with their lives. And what were they busy with? With the new harvest. This was the new harvest that had first come out right after that long famine that they had suffered for so many years. And everyone was out picking their food picking their produce from their harvest. And during this time, Ruth and Naomi used up what little substance they had brought with them. But after not too long, they had nothing left. And so Ruth says to Naomi, let me go. I know the laws of, like Lisa said, I know the laws of the fields. That in the fields, we have specific laws of tzedakah, that if there's the corners of the fields have to be left for the poor people. If any,
It's the payoff.
yeah, right?
Really?
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Corners.
The corners, yes. If any groups of fruit or harvest have fallen, if there's more than 3 years, 2 or 3 years, you have to leave it for the poor. A whole bunch of laws of laws of tzedakah that we have in the Torah. So Ruth, being the knowledgeable woman that she was, she knew the laws of the Torah because she had learned it from Naomi. She said to her mother-in-law, let me go out to some of the fields like a poor person and just get these things like all these poor people. That's how all the poor people, that's how they live, right? Let me get it from, you're too old to come with me. Let me just go and gather it myself. And her mother-in-law agreed, because what else could they do? They were in a really pitiful situation. As destiny would have it, she ended up going to the fields of Boaz. Boaz was related to Naomi. He was actually a nephew of Naomi. And he didn't know who Ruth was, and she didn't know who he was, but she's picking up the harvest. She's going in nice, to the different corners of the field and gathering things to take home to her mother-in-law for their own survival. And Boaz happens to notice her. He happens to notice her because she's extremely modest in how she behaves. He notices, first of all, that she's very educated. She's only taking what is rightfully hers. A lot of the poor people just take whatever they can. No one knows the laws exactly. She knew exactly what the laws were. She knew what she should be taking and what she could not be taking. And how she bent down, and the way she spoke, with the workers in the field. He can tell this was a woman of aristocracy. This is a very knowledgeable woman who's a very aristocratic woman. And he asks, who is she? And they tell her she is Naomi. Naomi came back with her from Moab, and he understands who she is. And so he approaches Ruth and he tells her, you can stay where my maidservants are staying. You could sleep here. You could stay there. You can also take whatever you want. Don't worry about taking, he was very generous to her, and he was allowing her to take whatever she wanted. And so the season passed in this way. At the end of the harvest season, Boaz was making this Thanksgiving celebration, meal, feast, thanking God for this beautiful harvest, inviting all the people to his feast, all the people who came. And Ruth is going to this Thanksgiving feast. And Naomi tells Ruth that she should do something at this feast. And she tells her this secret of what she needs to be doing. And we don't know this, right? The Megillah is written in a way that we don't know what exactly it is. Then we see what happens after this, during this feast. They have this feast, And at the end of the feast, Boaz goes to retire. He used to sleep in the threshold, in the threshing floor of near his field. That's where he slept during this harvest season. And Ruth, under the direction of Naomi, comes to where he's sleeping.
Wow.
Yeah. And sneaks in, lays down next to him, and takes the blanket and pulls it off of his feet. In the middle of the night, in the dead of the night, Boaz wakes up and he sees there's this figure of a woman laying down near him. And he says, "Who is this?" And she's removed the blanket from his feet. He says, "Who are you?" And she says, "I am Ruth, and I am Ruth, who was married to Naomi's son, and you are my relative. You are the next of kin to my husband, and so I'm asking of you that you either marry me or you perform chalitza." The performance of the mitzvah of chalitza means that the next of kin who does not want to marry
If there are no children.
if there's no children,
Usually
which
it's the brother.
usually
Yes,
it's the brother,
exactly.
yes. Usually
That's
it's the brother,
today.
yes.
Only-
No, it's always the
Yeah,
brother.
it's
But that's the closest relative.
this.
so
He
I
was the
didn't know that
close.
was a
Yes,
rule
he was the
that-
closest relative. The commentaries explain that there was actually one other relative who was even close, who was also closer, and Boaz asked him if he wanted to do it, and he said no, and that's what he had to do like the next day. Anyways, but she was saying to him that in the Torah there's a mitzvah that if a man dies childless, then the next of kin, usually the brother, marries the widow in order to keep his name going, to have children, and in this way the children are known to continue his legacy. Exactly. Now, if the brother or the woman do not want to do it, we perform a ceremony called chalitza,
Chalitza Tanal.
in which the shoe is removed.
Then
Exactly.
everybody know him as a Chalitza Tanal.
Sounds dirty.
So she was trying to say, by pulling the blanket off of his feet, either marry me like you have to, or do the chalitza, do this removal of the shoe. Now this was an extremely brave move of Ruth. She was told this by Naomi. She was told by Naomi that Naomi had nevuah, she had divine prophecy. And she said, I am seeing that there's a continuation with the Davidic dynasty through you and Boaz, that this is an important match to be made. This is a match made in heaven, and we need to continue on that line. And for Ruth to be doing this, like, imagine the courage and bravery it took. Like, what could have been his reaction?
Throwing her
Wow,
out.
it's like, who are you? Excuse me? Like, what
Excuse
exactly
me.
are you? Exactly. And she already was ostracized. He was the one person who was nice to her, who was kind to her. She was already like ostracized by people. Imagine if Boaz, who we say was the leader of the generation, he was the Torah leader of the generation. Imagine if he cursed her. Imagine if he publicized what she did and said, like, what a horrible person she is. How can she do this act? How can she act so? Like, forget it. She's finished. But she didn't think of her own self-interest. Naomi told her that this was something that was necessary for the Jewish people, and so she acted accordingly. And when Boaz saw this, he saw that he realized that she was acting not on her own self-interest, but she was doing this for a higher purpose. And when he saw that, he said, this is the quality, this is really the quality of what Mashiach is. What is Mashiach? It says Mashiach is the one that comes and fights all the lies that we see in our world. He lochem milchemet Hashem. He fights the war of God. What does it mean he fights the war of God? He cuts through all this nonsense that we see all around us. He cuts through the corruption. He cuts through the lies. He cuts through this upside down world that we're in. And we see it so clearly now what the upside down world is when people are screaming at Israel, for
Genocide.
like unbelievable genocide. Exactly, when they're screaming at Israel, when our own hostages are still there suffering.
Yeah.
You see the hypocrisy of the world. You see the absolute upside down immorality. You see it so clearly. Mashiach is the one. It says, "Uveruach piv yamis rasha." Through his mouth, he kills, he destroys wickedness. How? He makes things clear. He makes things so obvious. He turns upside down this upside downness and makes things proper, right side up. He explains in a way that is accepted and understood and taken in by the world, that they understand that because this is the truth, and the truth has to shine true. So that is the job of Mashiach. But Mashiach cannot be swayed by what everyone else is saying, by what the public opinion is saying, because there's no way that you can convince the world what is true. You cannot convince others what is true if you're swayed by the world. So he has to stand strong in who he is. Like we said, that Dr. Abrams, who stood strong in who he was. You're not swayed by what everyone else does. You know who you are. That is what Mashiach does. He stands strong in his principles, and that only through standing strong in his principles can he change the world and uncover the immorality and the falsehoods that are being spread so blatantly. So when Boaz saw Ruth's actions, he understood that that's what she stood for, and he realized that this is a woman who's a very special woman, and he decided to do indeed what she said. He was already a much, much older man, it says. They did get married, and the day after the married, Boaz dies. But Ruth was already pregnant. And who was she pregnant with? She was pregnant with Oved, who was the father of Yishai, who was the father of David, King David. And Ruth actually, it says, lived to a very long age. She was 40 at the time. She lived for a long life, though. And she was able to see King David rise to the throne, and even King Shlomo, David HaMelech's son. She lived a long life.
But it's good that she didn't see what happened after Shlomo.
Yes, that is true. Exactly. So it was,
Oved?
yeah, Oved, because he was an Oved Hashem. He served God. And Yishai, and then King David. Now, who of course is the Mashiach comes mi-Beit David. Mashiach is a descendant of Beit David. And it was her integrity, her standing up to, and in so many ways, when she left her homeland of Moab, again, she's leaving to nothing, but she sensed this is the right thing.
So wait a minute, she was pregnant with triplets?
No. Oh, no. She had Oved, and Oved had Yishai, and Yishai had David. Yes.
Just one.
Okay.
Yeah, just one.
Everyone had one.
Right. And it was her strength, to say, I'm going with you. I'm going with Naomi. I've tasted truth. I've tasted reality. I've tasted morality. This is real. This is genuine. And so I'm giving up everything in order to come with you. And then again, to follow Naomi's plan and do this with Boaz, again, possibly losing everything, but now she gained the ability of actually bringing the light of Mashiach into the
It's
world.
like Avraham Avinu
Yes,
that left everything
exactly.
to go to somewhere that he didn't know because
Exactly.
of his faith.
Exactly, 100%. So that's the story of Ruth. That's the story that we read. Now, why do we read this on Shavuot? Let's just talk for a few minutes about that, and then we will end with that.
Already?
Why do we read it on Shavuot? So first of all, we said one reason is because Katsir, because it was the time of harvest. Second reason is David HaMelech's birthday. His birthday and his yahrzeit is on Shavuot. So we're reminding that because, again, Shmuel Hanavi wrote this down because he wanted people to know what are the origins of King David, and that this is the true origins, that she's a genuine convert, and not only is she a genuine convert, but this is permitted, that Moaviyah, that female Moabites are permitted to enter, to become converts. So this is why we write it down. This is why we read it, and this is why he wrote it. Another theme that we see repeated throughout the Megillah is the idea of chesed and tzedakah, giving kindness. That's Ruth, Naomi Ruth followed Naomi. She says, where you're going, I'm going. Her kindness to Naomi, Boaz's kindness to Ruth, and the lack of kindness, which is what caused the whole, it was Elimelech's lack of kindness, his lack of willingness to share his wealth with others that caused this whole problem. But we see the idea of kindness and giving throughout. And this is what Torah is for. It's for kindness, for spreading kindness. It says that the world was created for the sake of kindness so that we can do kindness to one another. We also see that someone like Ruth, who was a convert from a nation that was not a good nation, how someone could rise from such a low position to become literally the ancestor, the great-grandmother of Mashiach. And why? Just because her heart and actions were in the right place. It doesn't matter where we come from. It doesn't matter what our origins are. We can make a change in our life that can completely change our own destiny, our destiny of our children, and the destiny of the world. But it's up to us. The little actions that we make, the little choices that we make, and the big ones, but it starts with those little ones, can completely transform who we become and what our world becomes. And we see that very clearly with Ruth. And that's a reason why, by the way, that the Torah was given on Har Sinai. Har Sinai was a mountain, but it's a small mountain. And why, if God wants to give the Torah on a mountain, doesn't he choose the biggest mountain? Why a little mountain? And if he doesn't want to have a mountain, so do it in a valley. But the whole point of Torah is to tell us, you need a mountain. A mountain represents the strength of character, that I'm going to do what I need to do. The valley is the humility, but we need to have that strength of character, but it can't be the tallest mountain because we need to have that humility. So we can't be thinking, I'm great, I'm great, I'm great. We need to have that strength of character mixed with humility. And that's why it was given on a mountain, which represents that strength of character. I'm not being swayed by the outside world, what everyone else is saying or doing. I have the genuineness to be who I am, that strength to be who I am. But at the same time, I don't think I'm great. And that's why it's the lowest mountain. It's the lowest of all the mountains. And that's why the Torah was given on Har Sinai. And that represents the idea that a person can become whoever they choose. The Torah was given in the wilderness. Why does it says, why was the Torah given in the wilderness? Because it's ownerless. The wilderness is ownerless. The desert is owner. No one owns the desert. And that teaches us that no one owns Torah. It's not mine. It's equally mine as it is yours. Don't think, oh, she's religious, so she gets to have Torah. It's everybody's. It's equally all of ours. It's something that we can all take. We just have to pull it and take it. And then it's there for all of us. So there's no ownership. No one could say, oh, it's only for the righteous ones, or it's only for the big scholars. No. Torah is for each and every one of us. And one last lesson that I want to talk about is, and this is something that I think is so relevant to all of us. You know, you see in the book of Ruth that here they made such a big mistake. Naomi and Elimelech, they did something so wrong. They deserted the Jewish people. They moved to Moab, out of their homeland, and they were punished for it so terribly, losing everything. And sometimes you think, you know, when we do a mistake, we think when we do a mistake, everything is gone. And yet you see, from the very mistake comes the very greatness. From the very mistake comes the greatest blessing. The very mistake that was done, which we're not condoning, it was a mistake. But out of that mistake, God turns it around and brings about the greatest blessing. And I think when we do things in our lives that we feel sometimes, oh, I did this and my life is over because of it, or this was a horrible thing that I can never rectify or change, we have to realize, no. From those biggest mistakes can come the greatest blessing. Own your mistakes, own what you've done wrong, own your failures, own your challenges, and realize that from those things that we look at as such bad things that we might have done ourselves, that we might have caused it ourselves, and we might think there's no hope. But specifically in those things, we see the greatest blessings and the greatest hope for the Jewish people. And I think that's really a message that we can take home from this. So
That's
I wish you
great.
all a wonderful, happy Shavuot.
Thank you.
Huh?
It's also, it's a minhag. I believe that it speaks in the Torah that Har Sinai, being a humble mountain, erupted into flowers and greenery.
Right.
So we tend to have greenery in our shuls, greenery in our homes. So if it's not your custom to have flowers for Shabbos, buy yourself some flowers for
Right.
Yom Tiv. Also, cheesecake.
Yeah.
Yes.
I had always
Why?
learned that because we were just being given the Torah, that we did not have the laws yet of separation of milk and meat, the laws of shchita, of how to cut
Slaughter.
meat, slaughter chickens or meat, whatever. So it's traditional also to have either a dairy meal, to have cheesecake, to have blintzes, to have ziti, all of the above, but also have meat meals as well. So, ask your local rabbi and follow whatever rules and
No
regulations.
meat on Shavuot.
What's that?
No meat on
No, no,
Shavuot.
no, no, no. That's not so at all. That's not
No?
so. That's not so.
Okay.
That's not so. You can have your dairy meal, and then you can have a meat meal. You can have a dairy kiddush, and then you can have a meat meal. There's no halacha that says you can't eat meat on Shavuos. No.
I know that we always eat, dairy
Dairy.
in Shavuot.
You can have dairy meals. Exactly.
Yeah.
You can have a dairy kiddush.
And one more thing that's
Yeah.
important is everyone should come to hear the Aseret
Aseret-
HaDibrot.
the Ten
Everyone,
Commandments, right.
because we said the Torah isn't just for some people or for the religious or for the knowledgeable or the scholars or the adults. Everyone, men, women, and children should come to hear the Aseret HaDibrot so we can re-accept the Torah, because every year we re-accept it upon ourselves, and that's why we say we wish each other Kabbalat HaTorah b'simcha u'b'pnimiyot. We wish each other that we should re-accept the Torah with joy, because we're always joyous, and b'pnimiyot, that we should really own it. We should make it ours. We should make it something that is ours, because it is ours. So
That's wonderful.
yes.